never flown first class.
I've flown first class a few times because my dad works for United, and so we fly standby. So occasionally, if a flight is very empty, you can be first class. That actually happened when I flew to Hawaii.
That's a sick flight to get in first class for.
Yeah, so me and my mom got to drink champagne in first class on our way to Hawaii.
Fun.
Yeah, that celebrated me graduating from undergrad. And then after I got my doctorate, no celebration.
Well, do you feel like it has to do with the fact that you got married really close to you getting your doctorate?
I think so. I think they considered the wedding like the expense. Although my parents and my in-laws were both like, oh, when you guys want to do the honeymoon, we'll pay for the honeymoon. We didn't have a honeymoon, and that's fine.
Aren't you guys going to drive on that water bridge in Florida at some point?
Well, originally we wanted to drive down to the Florida Keys, but did not happen. One day when I get my come up, I'll have my Florida Keys vacation and fucking live like Ernest Hemingway and then kill myself.
Well, no, don't do that. Never milk yourself, as we all know. But I feel like a lot of people don't do their honeymoon right after the wedding anymore. Because, like, my friends SMJ and their wife, Sally, just did their honeymoon in June. So they waited at least a year.
Which makes sense. I mean, oftentimes the wedding is a big expense, so it makes sense to do your vacation a little bit later.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to do much social comparison because everything on the internet is meant to make you feel bad so that you purchase things.
Everyone on the internet, sorry, all the people on the internet listening, all the people on the internet have family money or credit card debt.
That's what upsets me though. I have credit card debt, but my credit card debt wasn't from anything fucking fun. I have credit card debt because I went to an expensive gym while I was in grad school. Yeah, and then I moved across the country.
Yeah, mine is from making less than $30,000 when I lived in New York the first year.
A mistake you'll be paying for several years to come.
Yep.
Speaking of mistakes for several years to come, hello and welcome to Informed Attraction, a podcast hosted by one housewife stereotype and one victim of sexual harassment. A podcast about how sometimes women are people. Sometimes they're bottles of maple syrup.
I think I'm the victim of sexual harassment in this case.
Maybe. Who's to say? Who's to say?
I feel like we've had a conversation about the fact that I get catcalled more than anybody else.
We unfortunately both have canon events that involve sexual violence.
Yeah.
Sad to say.
Hey, living in America when you're in a femme-presenting body. That's a Rent reference for all you Rent heads out there. Yeah. Musical theater gang, rise.
Welcome to episode 5 of our Mascots series, where today we're going to be talking about women. The whole reason...
Finally!
So, the whole reason why we really have this series was because we got a single listener email from my dear friend Katie. She sent us these ads for Orangina,
I think
Orangina sodas from the late 2000s. And basically they had a bunch of sexy anthropomorphized animals and also one sexy anthropomorphized cactus. This reminded me of like when I was a kid and there was that Paris Hilton commercial where she's eating the burger all sexy on the car. And it just made me think about the ways women are objectified in media. But I think a lot of people have talked about that. So I wanted to orient us more toward talking about female mascots and how we depict women specifically when they are the face of a brand. So I think that there's a difference between like an ad that features a sexualized woman like Paris Hilton eating the Carl's Jr. burger and like Flo from Progressive, right? Because the Paris Hilton ad wasn't necessarily Paris Hilton being the spokesperson for Carl's Jr., it was using her body and presence as a means of selling product, whereas when you think of like Flo from Progressive, that's meant to be like an embodiment of the brand itself.
I will say, going back to Katie's email, a couple of things on Katie's email. Number one, Katie's email was the first listener email we ever got.
Yeah!
So if you don't think, yeah, and if you don't think I'm not reading every single one of them and we're not diligently considering that the things that you email us as topics, let this be proof that we read all of them and we consider them all deeply right now, because there's like 70 of you listening to each episode of this. Food Network's about to hit 100 though. That's really exciting. Ooh. The other thing is these Orangina ads are like I struggle to call them sexy in some ways because like, okay, the one of these that looks the most normal is the cactus. The cactus somehow inspires the least amount of nightmares in me. It just kind of reminds me of the girl version of my tattoo. I have a tattoo of a cactus doing the disco, and the cactus in these Orangina commercials is just sort of like a sexy lady in like a tango dress and stockings, thigh highs. Okay, the other ones, I think the most cursed.
I don't like the deer.
I think the deer is the most cursed, and then perhaps the giraffe, and then I'd say the penguin.
They all have tits, by the way.
Yeah, they all have, that's the whole thing. It's just kind of like animal heads on sexy lady bodies, but then the bodies also look like the animals, and like the deer one is particularly cursed because there's a man sitting with the deer, and he's just like looking straight at her boobs, but then also in the giraffe one, it's like a teen boy with his head on her chest while she like feeds him Orangina. I don't know who was like, you know what, this is gonna be awesome, but also these were French. Like, to be very clear, these were French ads. So sorry one time to our two French listeners, but the French are weird, man.
I like the openness that the French people have about sexuality.
Listen, one time these 3 French people were blocking the entire crosswalk in Williamsburg, which I was like, how did the tourists find out about Williamsburg? What happened? And then I like kind of said something to them, and I asked them to move because they were blocking the entire crosswalk, and then they started talking shit about me in French. Little did they know I'm fluent in French. And so then I responded to them in French, and I've never watched people feel shame like that before. And I was like, well, yeah, what I said was true. That they were not expecting me to know exactly what they were saying.
If you could kiss somebody from any country, what country would you want to kiss? Like a representative from that country.
I don't know.
I want a deep, passionate kiss from a French person.
I don't. That's like the bottom of my list.
Okay. Oh. Well, if we know who's at the bottom, then who's at the top?
I genuinely have beef with the French. I don't know. I don't. This is the second time I've gotten nervous and scared this series. I don't know. Like, I think people from lots of countries are cool.
But like who? Like, because I'm thinking like the romance of it, like an Italian kisser, like a Greek kisser. I feel like a German kiss would. It would set me right. It'd be like a chiropractic readjustment.
I've never considered this, I guess, is my answer to this question. I don't know. This is genuinely making me panic because I don't want to offend anybody.
How is that? You're not offending anybody.
I feel like I'm fetishizing people.
What are you talking about? This is why I'm so interested in how our brains work, because I'm shocked that you've never thought of this.
Also, I would like to say, Aubrey, you named a bunch of European countries.
Well, they're called the Romance languages.
Interesting. They speak French other places other than France.
Oh.
You could have rocked it with like a Tunisia, an Algeria,
Ooh.
a Senegal.
Okay, an Albanian kiss? A Moroccan kiss?
Albania is still Europe.
It's spicy Europe. Let's be real.
Albania?
I don't know. I could not identify Albania on a map. I went to public school.
Okay.
I'm notoriously bad at geography.
Yeah. I mean, I had the thought, the countries that immediately crossed my head were New Zealand, Morocco, and Japan. So.
Okay.
And then also Ireland popped up in there. I don't know. But I feel that I have liked and hated people from many places because I'm an equal opportunity lover and hater of all people.
So I decided to do
Aubrey hates me and everything I say.
Sometimes I feel when there's a natural conclusion, I will just go on to the next thing. That saves you time in editing.
Okay, fine.
So, I decided to do a 7-part series and not mention anything related to Katie's email until episode 5. So, initially this was intended to be the last episode of this series, but I have had people in my life clamor at me for 2 additional episodes, so we're really...
2. Interesting that you're saying 2 now, when on the internet yesterday you said 3. Interesting, Aubrey.
Well, we're gonna see.
Who were you lying to?
I might be lying to myself.
Wait, I had something else on that. Wait, what was I gonna say? Oh, the other mascot that we're probably not going to talk about in this series, who I know a lot of people are horny for, is the Jolly Green Giant. I hope you felt seen and heard by the Brawny Man series, and if there's a particular reason why it's the Jolly Green Giant, like if it has to do with his greenness, sorry that we didn't talk about him, but maybe if enough people yell at us about it, we'll talk about him later.
I'll do a whole series on giants. Fuck it. Send me one email telling me about your giant fucking, and I'll make a whole goddamn giant fucker series.
Listener Loey sent us an email, and now I'm gonna watch every Stanley Tucci movie. So we listen
into the Tucci-verse.
Into the Tucci-verse.
My friend Loey. She's listener Loey to you. She's my friend Loey to me.
No, but I think it's fun to refer to them as listeners. It's like listener Kendro sent us an email about the Muppets, but listener Kendro is also my frequent collaborator and friend.
So this is all to say that if you email us, you might get a 10-part series on a topic that's tangentially related to whatever you want us to talk about. What I'm going to suggest in this episode is that I think there are two types of female mascot, and they are separated historically in kind of old school and new school, where old school mascots tend to depict women as domestic authorities or embodiments of trust, and modern female mascots are characterized by being self-aware and quirky. Of course, there are mascots who probably fall outside of these categories, but just for the way that my brain organizes things, that is how I am thinking and organizing the script for today.
Do you think the old school and new school female mascots would have like rap beef?
I think that the new school female mascots would feel very sympathetic and sorry for the old school female mascots.
Okay, so we wouldn't be getting into like a Kendrick and Drake, or somehow more recent example, a Lana Del Rey, Ethel Cain rap beef.
I think it'd be more of like when your mom says something and you realize how sexist society was when she was a kid.
I see. Okay, well that's more sad than the two trad wives of music fighting.
Look, Lana Del Rey raised me. That's a mother. This isn't meant to be any kind of comprehensive review, and I think there is a lot to discuss on this topic, especially as it relates to things like race and body size, but I am going to center today by talking about the mascots Aunt Jemima and Betty Crocker, and then I'm going to talk about two modern mascots with Flo from Progressive and Lily from the AT&T commercials. My goal is to compare and contrast how these women have been depicted and what we think about what that means for the ways that women are treated in society more broadly. So we're going to start with Aunt Jemima. Aunt Jemima was an American breakfast brand for pancake mix, table syrup, and other breakfast food products. The original version of the mix was developed in 1888 by the Pearl Milling Company, and it was advertised as the first ready-mix cooking product. Aunt Jemima was modeled after and has been a famous example of the mammy archetype in the southern United States. As we have just established, we have dozens of non-US listeners, so the mammy is a US historical stereotype that depicts Black women, usually enslaved, who did domestic work, like nursing children in the household, taking care of tasks around the house, and essentially, like, keeping house and home for rich white families. The fictionalized mammy character is often visualized as a dark-skinned woman with a motherly personality. So, like, the idea is that the mammy figure stereotype is, like, usually a larger-bodied, dark-skinned Black woman who is very motherly and takes care of children and takes care of the house for a rich, wealthy, white family.
And that explanation was for our 9.5% of our listeners who are not from the U.S., and for the probably huge portion of our U.S. audience who did not receive a comprehensive history education in the public school system.
So true. The origin of the mammy figure stereotype is rooted in the history of slavery in the United States, as enslaved women were often tasked with domestic and childcare work in American slaveholding households. The mammy caricature was used to create a narrative of Black women being content within the institution of slavery among domestic servitude. The mammy stereotype associates Black women with domestic roles, and it's been argued that, alongside segregation and discrimination, that the mammy stereotype limited job opportunities for Black women during the Jim Crow era. Basically, it's like the stereotype exists that there are these women who just love taking care of like white families essentially. So why would they want to join the workforce? And that's really bad. That's really, really, really destructive.
Yeah, I think that this is also why people like now have beef with like the movie The Help,
Yeah.
because it perpetuates sort of a white savior narrative, and it also like sort of trivializes the experiences of Black domestic workers. And so also because there was a real life housekeeper who claimed that her life story was stolen by the book's author. But like I think that that's part of why people sort of in retrospect, including people who were in the movie, are like The Help was maybe bad, is because it sort of, while it was sort of pretending to give agency to Black domestic workers, it actually ended up perpetuating a bunch of these stereotypes and falling into this trope, even though it was trying to not do that. But we see that a lot with like white people making movies about Black folks in the South, because that's also the Green Book problem.
Yeah. And I have read the book version of The Help. I've actually never seen the movie, weirdly enough. I thought the book was fine. Like, I do think that the book is, I don't know. I don't want to say I think it glosses over a lot of issues. I think that The Help as a novel stays very surface level with its exploration of these themes. So I think it wants to pat itself on the back for touching some of this stuff, but then it never goes beyond the surface.
Well, we were just talking about this when we were talking about my book club for work, read James by Percival Everett, which is, for folks who don't know, it's the book that won the Pulitzer Prize for fiction this year, and it's a retelling of the adventures of Huckleberry Finn from Jim's perspective. And sort of the thing that we were talking about yesterday when we were discussing the book is that like the reason why it's so different, like sometimes plot-wise, from the adventures of Huckleberry Finn is because obviously Huck Finn and Jim are going to have very different perceptions of this of these events that took place, because they were in very different positions at the time. And I think that that's the thing with The Help that's like really annoying to people, is that we're getting the perspective of these Black domestic workers through the lens of a white woman, written by a white woman. And so it's not going to actually be an authentic representation. It's going to be the perception of a well-meaning white woman's perception of these situations, which just ultimately isn't like a helpful resource for racism at all. And it does perpetuate the mammy stereotype. And so it just ultimately was like the ways in which well-meaning white people can end up perpetuating racism without like the express intent to, but like still do it.
Yeah. The earliest depiction of Aunt Jemima was based upon vaudeville parody, and it remained a racial caricature for many years until Quaker Oats commissioned an artist to paint a portrait of an artist named Anna Robinson, and the Aunt Jemima package was redesigned around her new likeness. However, there are real...
I was gonna say, I think it's important for people to know that like part of the reason why the vaudeville caricature thing is a problem is that vaudeville has its roots in minstrelsy, which was blackface performances, and so that's like the big issue with basing it on a vaudeville caricature, because vaudeville is based in blackface minstrelsy. And so, you know.
Yeah, the original Aunt Jemima images look like someone in blackface. It's not good at all.
No.
There were also real-life women who would portray Aunt Jemima. The first of these was a woman named Nancy Green, who portrayed Aunt Jemima as a character in the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, and she was one of the first Black corporate models in the United States. And I'm going to...
What?
1893? Yeah. This shit is old,
That's wild. That's wild to me, man.
Yeah. So now I'm going to get into a little bit of I'm going to do a little bit of a profile of Nancy Green. So Nancy Hayes, or Hughes was her birth name, it's unclear which, was born enslaved in the antebellum South on March 4th, 1834 in my current home state of Kentucky. Nancy Green has been variously described as a servant, a nurse, a nanny, a housekeeper, and a cook for Samuel Johnson Walker and his wife Amanda. She also served their children, serving as a nanny and cook to their children as well. The two sons of the Walker household became well known, as the oldest one was Chicago Circuit Judge Charles Moorhead Walker, and then the younger son was Dr. Samuel J. Walker. Nancy lived in a wood frame shack, which allegedly is still standing behind their home on Main Street in Covington, Kentucky, which I have driven through multiple times. At the behest of Dr. Samuel J. Walker, Nancy was hired by the R.T. Davis Milling Company in St. Joseph, Missouri, to represent the Aunt Jemima character. It was thought that having a real living Black woman be the spokesperson in this demonstration, rather than being a white man in blackface and drag, would reinforce the product's authenticity and its origin as a creation of a real ex-slave, because that was the narrative that the Aunt Jemima products were trying to make, is that it was derived from a recipe that came from real slaves.
Which is crazy. That's, I mean, it's not shocking that like a bunch of white people would be interested in that, but it is really tricky. I also think that like read the whole like so many jobs available to Black women even post-slavery being in these housekeeper childcare roles, like also, and this is such a tangent, but like gets into the barriers to education faced by Black people at the time that continue to this day. And it just grinds my gears hearing people trying to claim that these are like the jobs they want, the jobs they're meant to have, blah, 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 racist bullshit, and like ignoring all of the socio-economic barriers, specifically barriers to education that would allow folks to have different jobs. Anyway, that's a tangent. That's just me being on my soapbox, but alas.
At the age of 59, Green made her debut as Aunt Jemima in the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition held in Chicago. Besides the world's largest flour barrel, which was 24 feet high, and she operated a pancake cooking display, sang songs, and promoted the product. After the expo, she was reportedly offered a lifetime contract to adopt the Aunt Jemima moniker and promote the pancake mix. However, she would only serve in the position for 20 years. The information that I could find on this was that she was apparently supposed to go to some expo in Paris, but for whatever reason wouldn't or couldn't travel overseas. So they let her go and replaced her with another actress, and they basically used just a rotating cast of various women to play Aunt Jemima. I refer to that person as an actress. I probably not a like working conventional actress as we would think, but rather like just another person who fit that character description who could play the Aunt Jemima character. So there was a huge promotional push after Nancy Green started to portray Aunt Jemima in real life. This included thousands of personal appearances and Aunt Jemima merchandising. She appeared at fairs, festivals, flea markets, food shows, and local grocery stores. Her arrival would be heralded by large billboards that would feature her slogan, "Eyes in Town, honey." Basically, after the World's Fair and after Nancy Green is portraying Aunt Jemima, the company decides to create fictional stories about who Aunt Jemima is. So there are several of them. In one story, she's presented as the loyal cook for the fictional Colonel Higby's Louisiana plantation on the Mississippi River. It was said that she used her secret recipe from the South before the Civil War with her matchless plantation flavor to make the best pancakes in Dixie. Another story involves her diverting Union soldiers during the Civil War with her pancakes for long enough for Colonel Higby to escape. So just creating a narrative where Aunt Jemima is this devoted, enslaved person to this white guy, Colonel Higby, and will just do anything for him with her magical pancake powers.
That's awful. That's just straight up trash, and it makes me mad, especially like the way that just I mean, obviously this wasn't every situation, but historically how white men treated their Black female slaves was usually, or at least some of the time, one of sexual violence. I don't love that.
Yeah. Another harrowing fact that I have is that starting in 1894, the company added an Aunt Jemima paper doll family that could be cut out from the pancake box. So it was Aunt Jemima, her husband, and their 3 children. And the paper doll family was posed dancing barefoot, dressed in tattered clothing, and the box was labeled before the receipt was sold. Receipt is an archaic form of the word recipe, so the caption would basically be before the recipe was sold, and then buying another box with elegant clothing cutouts to fit over the dolls, the customer could then transform them to after the recipe was sold. And this basically reinforces this rags to riches American cultural mythos, this idea that, people can come up from nothing.
Okay.
Especially damaging when it's a narrative that they're trying to sell about, like, enslaved people.
Yep, that's not, don't love that. I don't like that, is what I'll say.
Yeah.
Especially when you put into the context that, like, the majority of the people who are going to have the financial means to buy Aunt Jemima products at this time are going to be white people.
Mm-hmm. After Nancy Green was let go from being Aunt Jemima, she continued to work as a residential housekeeper. In the 1910 census, at the age of 76, she was still working as a residential housekeeper, according to that census.
So obviously the Aunt Jemima thing didn't pay her enough to not have to do that, which is horrific.
No, very few people were aware of her role as Aunt Jemima, and she died on August 30th, 1923, at the age of 89 in Chicago, when a car collided with a laundry truck and hurtled onto the sidewalk where she was standing. Yeah, so she got crushed to death, essentially, by a car. She was buried in an unmarked grave near a wall in the northeast quadrant of Chicago's Oakwood Cemetery, and her grave was unmarked and unknown until 2015, when Sherry Williams, who was the founder of the Bronzeville Historical Society, uncovered her resting place after 15 years of trying to find it. Williams received approval to place a headstone, and she reached out to Quaker Oats about whether they would support a monument for Nancy Green's grave. Because she was the original face of Aunt Jemima, one of their fucking products. And the corporate response was that Nancy Green and Aunt Jemima aren't the same person. Aunt Jemima's a fictional character.
I'm buying a gun and I'm shooting that Quaker man.
Yeah. Her headstone was finally placed on September 5th of 2020. There's many other women who portrayed Aunt Jemima, some who have a history similar to Nancy Green's. I decided for the context of this episode just to focus on Nancy Green, but again, dozens of women who were paid to portray Aunt Jemima. Not very much, and there was obviously no security or longevity that came with that. So they were likely just abused by the corporation until they were no longer useful. Okay. In 2014, a lawsuit was filed against Quaker Oats, PepsiCo, and others, claiming that Nancy Green and Anna Short Harrington, who also played Aunt Jemima starting in 1935, were exploited by the company and cheated out of the monetary compensation that they were promised. The plaintiffs were two of Harrington's great-grandsons, and they sought a multi-billion-dollar settlement for the descendants of both Nancy Green and Harrington. The lawsuit was dismissed with prejudice and without leave to amend on February 18th, 2015. So the court said, go fuck yourself. It was actually fine.
Of course. Shocking. Yeah. I'm so shocked.
And then as time went on, the Aunt Jemima character did change and evolve. So in 1968, the face of Aunt Jemima became a composited creation. So she was slimmed down from the previous appearance and had a white collar and geometric print headband that still resembled the previous kerchief that she was wearing before. And then in 1989, to mark the 100th anniversary of the brand, her image was again updated with her head covering removed, revealing wavy gray streaked hair, gold trimmed pearl earrings, and replacing her plain white collar with lace. At the time, the revised image was described as a move toward a more sophisticated depiction, with Quaker marketing the change as giving her a more contemporary look, which remained on the products until early 2021. So, due to...
Aubrey, before we get to the 2021 stuff, do you have feelings about them slimming her down?
I mean, am I gonna say that there's anti-fat bias at play too? Maybe. Probably. Yeah. I think it's I think in general, it's a bad caricature of a black woman.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it's not redeemable. It's just, it's not redeemable. Like, it just, the well was poisoned from the get. But it's just interesting that they're like, well, now we're in the 60s when people are doing the mod thing, so now she has to be skinny.
Yeah. And I also do want to say that I'm not trying to say that, like, I don't think you could have a, like, grandmotherly black woman be a mascot for a product. I think that you certainly could, but it's just very clear that the Aunt Jemima character is, like, a direct, a creation that reflects racial prejudice.
Right, it's just, that's what I mean. It's like, the well is just poison.
Yeah.
There's not a way to save it.
Yeah. So basically, because of the mammy stereotype and its historical ties to the Jim Crow era, Quaker Oats announced in June 2020 that the Aunt Jemima brand would be discontinued in order to make progress toward racial equality.
I mean, yeah, that's when that was cool to do, but now Cracker Barrel's changing their logo, and people are tweeting about how they found God in the Cracker Barrel parking lot and how woke is taking over America, so, he swung back the other direction.
Hello, editing Mackenna here. Number one, I'm sick, so you're welcome for how I sound. And also, we recorded this, and then I think the next day, Cracker Barrel announced they were going to change their logo back. So I think it's still an interesting conversation that we have about the logo, but obviously, Cracker Barrel immediately caved to the pressure that they were getting from conservatives about their logo. Bro, this whole thing was crazy. So anyway, back to Aubrey from the past.
I don't even understand the Cracker Barrel thing, because isn't the logo like a white guy?
Correct. It's culture war bullshit of nothingness. I don't know if maybe he's supposed to be like a plantation owner or something, and that's what it is. I don't know. Maybe I'll do some Googling while you continue, but it's stupid, dumb bullshit. And I know last episode we recorded, we talked about the Sydney Sweeney situation, and somehow the Cracker Barrel thing is actually dumber.
Yeah. I'm not even participating in that, because to me it's just so, every brand now that has an intricate logo just makes a simplified one. It's just, how is this? Release the Epstein files. Moving on. So in June of 2021, amidst the, racial discussions that were happening in the United States, the Aunt Jemima brand name was discontinued by PepsiCo, with all of its products rebranded to Pearl Milling Company, which was the name of the company that produced the original pancake mix. However, Aunt Jemima's name still remains in the brand's tagline, which is same great taste as Aunt Jemima. So, yeah. Did you know that Cracker Barrel cheese, like when you're in the grocery store, if you ever see Cracker Barrel cheese or Cracker Barrel mac and cheese, no affiliation with the Cracker Barrel restaurant?
You know what's so funny? I'm scrolling through this Business Insider article right now, and literally I'm at the part that says Kraft sued Cracker Barrel in 2013 for trademark infringement.
Wow, my mind.
I'm trying to figure out what's up with, so what I've learned is Cracker Barrel was homophobic at one point. They also were sued for racial discrimination at one point. I can't tell. I can't find any information on the guy and the logo. I don't know.
That's the thing. I don't think that they're changing it because of any kind of perceived backlash or anything like that. I think they're just simplifying the logo.
Okay. I'm just seeing, it depicted Evan's uncle, Herschel, sitting on a chair with legs crossed, his right arm. So it's just the guy who founded the company's uncle. But I wonder, you know what I wonder? I feel like where this all comes from, Southern-themed restaurant has become the largest battleground and increasingly unpredictable culture of American who gets to find it. I wonder if this reaction is coming from literally from the Aunt Jemima thing, right? Because they're making an assumption that Cracker Barrel changed it because that man, who is just the guy's uncle, had something to do with why they wanted to if they didn't want like a white man. I feel like there's two options. I feel like they're either conflating it with the idea that he was some sort of like guy from the South, and so the woke libs didn't like that, or that they just didn't want a white man to be the face of the brand. It's just one of those things that it's like, it's such a nothing. It's just such a nothing change. I mean, the logo sucks. We can't stand for this. Return to tradition. It's about creating massive pressure against companies that are considering a move that might appear to be wokeification.
Oh my God. That's the thing. They're like, it's like, and that's the thing. I need someone to explain to me, how is it woke if they're taking a white guy off? But I guess that's why it's woke, because they're afraid to have a white man on the packaging.
I'm back to my favorite website, foxnews.com. New text-only design removes beloved old-timer character that evoked rustic nostalgia for travelers. It takes away the heritage. When you're 81 years old, you kind of remember the way the place started. It's the old things the country was founded on. It's their... It's like they're just being like, they're taking away our American history by taking this white man off the logo. And it's like, fuck you, man. They made a shitty logo. It's not about being woke. It's just stupid. It's just stupid bullshit. And so it's like, it's just so interesting because you can have, anyway, back to Aunt Jemima, but it just, all this stuff is just so dumb. It's just so dumb.
It is so dumb.
The Aunt Jemima thing makes sense. It's good that Quaker Oats, well, mostly parted ways with her, because it's like, that wasn't an okay character from the jump. And the fact that it took until 2021 for them to retire it when its direct root was in slavery and in blackface, since the original depictions of her was a vaudeville minstrel depiction of a black woman. Like, it shouldn't have taken 130 years for them to get rid of that character. So, but like, that's like for real. The Cracker Barrel thing, they weren't even just like that's like, the intent wasn't to take a person out because the mascot was controversial or whatever. They just wanted a shitty millennial garbage. I hate to call it millennial, but it's what I mean by that is not like millennials the people, but like this like turn of the century simplification, everything is minimalist garbage logo.
So that's the thing. I tried to look into how people felt after Aunt Jemima basically went away. It's like the same shit with the Cracker Barrel shit, as some people are like, you're taking away I love Aunt Jemima. And it's like, shut up. Some people are like, this is good that this happened. What I think is interesting is that a lot of the descendants of the Aunt Jemima models objected to this change. So a lot of people from Anna Short Harrigan, Nancy Green, there's another model, Lillian Richard, their family members made statements where they basically said like, I wish that we wouldn't get rid of this. It's our history. It's my family history. And I don't know. I think that they are totally allowed to feel that way. And I don't know. I think it's probably good that it's gone. And I also am like, I kind of get what they're saying, is it's like, I know it's shitty, but also like, this was something that like my family was attached to. Like this, like to me, this was a real person.
Yeah. I mean, I also wonder, like, we talked about in the very first episode of the series that like, after the guy who played Mr. Whipple died, like they retired they'd already retired the character, but they like retired the character. I feel like brand mascots get retired all the time. I think the difference here is because it was also the brand name, which then also had to change. But I don't know. I just don't think, and this is again a personal opinion as a white person, but it's like, I don't think I feel comfortable buying a product that the spokesperson of is like explicitly is supposed to be an ex-slave. And so I think it's good to retire the character, but I also totally understand the feelings of the family where it's like, the whole thing that like that quote from Quaker Oats that's like, Nancy Green and Aunt Jemima were two different people, but to the Green family, like, no, they're not. That's the same person. And so it's like their family legacy is kind of being erased in some way, which sucks.
Yeah. So that's all I've got on Aunt Jemima, and I really want to compare the treatment of Nancy Green and the Aunt Jemima character to the character of Betty Crocker. So Betty Crocker is a brand and fictional character that's used in advertising campaigns for food and recipes. The character was developed in 1921 following a unique gold medal flower promotion that was featured in the Saturday Evening Post. Basically, the ad asked consumers to complete a jigsaw puzzle and mail it to the Washburn Crosby Company, which would later become General Mills, in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And in return, people would receive a pincushion shaped like a bag of flour. So there were 30,000 completed puzzles that people sent in, and several hundred people also sent in letters with cooking-related questions. And basically, General Mills realized that housewives would probably want advice from fellow women, so their advertising department decided to create a personality that the women answering the letters could all use in their replies. The name Betty was selected because it was viewed as a cheery, all-American name, and it was paired with the last name Crocker in honor of William Crocker, who was one of the Washburn Crosby Company's directors.
So not in honor of Mr. Crocker from the Fairly Odd Parents, then?
No, actually not.
Oh, sad.
In 1925, Betty Crocker acquired a voice with the debut of the Betty Crocker Cooking School on the Air, which was on a station in Minneapolis. It was the United States' first radio cooking program, and it was very popular. It was eventually carried nationally by NBC, and Agnes White Tizard voiced Betty Crocker for that radio show. The first portrait of Betty Crocker was commissioned in 1936 and made its debut on packaging in 1937, appearing on a cake flour package. It is a quote, motherly image that was created by blending the features of several home service department members, and it has changed over the years, but basically the depiction of Betty Crocker is always supposed to be General Mills's cultural perception of the American homemaker, knowledgeable and caring. So basically the image of Betty Crocker is supposed to be what General Mills thinks a housewife looks like. So I am going to send Mackenna the link to all of the Betty Crocker portraits, and I'm going to have Mackenna talk us through the 7 different Betty Crockers. What are these women like, Mackenna?
Okay.
Give me a little bit, let's do a little bit of like a rating system. Would you eat their cakes?
I think Betty Crocker 1 from 1936 would have not been so nice to me. She looks very severe.
Yeah.
Like, it's interesting to me that it's supposed to be motherly image. She's got short hair with sort of like wavy, pin curly kind of situations. Very high collar, which I know is just of the style of the time. But they just kind of drew her with a little bit like a scour. Like, it's like the most neutral face, which it just, to me, doesn't give like she's gonna bake me a good cake. It's that like she might hit me with a ruler.
Yeah, she's doing a little pouty thing with her lips.
Yeah, and so then in 1955, there's a new one, and similar hairstyle. Actually, it's a little bit fuller hair, and similar, collar and all that. But they drew her with a softer smile, which is, I think, helpful and makes me feel like I would enjoy her cake more. They also changed her eye color. Her eyes are blue in the 55 version, where they were brown in the one from the 30s. And then we get 2 portraits in the 60s, in 65 and 69. In 65, she still has some of the curl to her hair, where in 69 it gets softer. I think the woman in 1965, who has some beautiful pearls, would make me a cake that is worse and a little bit drier than the woman from 1955, but it would still be delicious. I do not believe the woman from 1969 has ever baked a cake.
No, never in her life.
She looks like the wife of a senator. Yeah. Like, that woman has never baked a cake.
Yeah.
And then in 1972, we get a more business-like Betty Crocker, which is supposed to symbolize American women's significant role outside the home. They just kind of give her a little bit more of a suit jacket-looking jacket than the woman from 1969, but I don't actually think she looks that much more business-like than she did in 69. That woman, I believe, would bake me a cake. She only bakes cakes on special occasions, and they're usually very dry.
Okay.
In 1980, they softened her image again to a more casual look. She has that same, like, wavy hair. It's interesting. She has, like, short hair in all of these, which is very interesting. They're like, moms have short hair. This one, she sort of just looks like Pam from The Office on God, and I do believe she would bake me a nice little cake. I think that cake would be good.
I think she'd make a pineapple upside-down cake. And she'd be like, it's a little different.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be her vibe.
In 1986, we get a professional woman. She feels like she's younger than all of the rest of them. She feels like she's painted a little bit younger.
She's my favorite.
Than all of the other ones. She's very pretty. I feel like, I just feel like they have painted her a little bit softer. I believe she would not bake a cake for her children. Well, maybe she would. She has young children if she has children, but like, she looks like my friend who would bake me a cake for my birthday.
She's the one I trust the most.
Yeah, I agree. And then we have the one from 1996, and she looks like, how we would kind of remember a mom, because we were children in the 90s/early 2000s. She looks nice. She looks like she'd bake me cake. She looks like she'd make a better dinner than a cake. You know what I mean? Like, she looks like someone who would make a great dinner. I don't know that I think she makes a great cake, but I like her little sweater. I like her earrings. She definitely looks the most modern. I think I'm so freaked out by AI images now that, like, my brain was like, that's AI. And then I was like, Mackenna, that was made in 1996. It certainly was not an AI composite.
It was a computer composite, though.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, they look... Oh, my...
Oh, yeah, a computerized composite of 75 women. Yeah. I think what's interesting is I think that's the first portrait where she goes back to having brown eyes.
Yeah.
Because she has blue eyes starting in 55, and then she has brown eyes again in 1996.
Yeah. I was surprised we haven't had an updated Betty Crocker since in my lifetime, since 1996. But I think that, unfortunately, in the hellscape that we live in, people would freak the fuck out if Betty Crocker looked different.
Well, I will say that as someone who was born in 1997, I didn't really know that Betty Crocker was ever represented by a woman. I always just thought it was just sort of the name brand. I didn't know that they had a mascot. And so I actually wonder, like, obviously it would probably, I just don't know how they would do it, because, like, what being a mom looks like is so different now in, like, people just have a much less homogenized look now. Even if you just took a bunch of white women, it's like, I feel like it's hard to find, like, the midpoint of what, like, a mom looks like. I feel like the smartest thing for them to do at this point actually to do, like, a real life, as we're gonna get into, like a Flo or the AT&T, like, have an actual person play Betty Crocker.
You know what I would love would be to have multiple women play Betty Crocker.
Yeah, like, there'd be, like, multiple Bettys who hang out.
Oh my god, wait, okay, hold on. General Mills, if this advertising campaign comes out, I'm suing the fuck out of you. But, like, imagine, you're right, you have a bunch of Betty Crockers, and they're all, like, in their different mom modes. So, like, one is, like, all busy, driving her kids around, the other one's, like, working a bunch, the other one's making a cake, and then they all go to, like, the kid's birthday party, and they all introduce each other, and they're like, I'm Betty.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that would be so cute. Why did that give me chills?
That would be really cute. And I think that's the thing is just, like, I don't have, like, I do have a view of, like, what a housewife looked like throughout history, but I just think that, like, honestly, it's so hard to be a single income household these days. And, like, just people just generally, even amongst us whites, like, look so different because of, like, the expansion of fashion and, like, aesthetics and things like that, like, I think it'd be hard to nail down, like, a woman to be this thing, because what a mom looks like now is so diverse, even amongst white people.
Yeah. I do think that it's really interesting.
Obviously, if they tried to have a non-white person play Betty Crocker, the General Mills building would get firebombed, but...
Yeah, they would fucking freak out.
Yeah.
They being idiots. Idiots would freak out.
Yes.
In 1945, Fortune magazine named Betty Crocker the second most popular woman in America. Do you want to know who was first?
Eleanor Roosevelt.
Correct.
Yes! 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 Oh my god, I'm so smart!
There's also an article from Fortune that year where they out Betty Crocker as a fictional character, where they call her fake and a fraud, and I think that that's hilarious. The
way I thought you were gonna be, like, as a lesbian, I was like, what?
Oh my god, you know what? Oh, this is how we're gonna fucking make conservatives lose their shit, is we do a new Betty Crocker. It's, like, a beautiful, like, white...
Nara Smith-looking woman.
Yeah, like, just, like, a trad wife stereotype, but then she's making it for her wife.
Yeah!
Ha 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 ha.
For her butch wife.
Yeah! In 1949, actress Adelaide Hawley Cumming became Betty Crocker and acted as Betty Crocker for many years. I think her story is quite fascinating. So, Adelaide Hawley Cumming studied piano and voice on scholarship at Eastman School of Music at the University of Rochester and graduated with a bachelor's degree in music in 1926.
Slay mama.
She taught as assistant professor of voice at the Alabama College State College for Women's School of Music in Montevallo, Alabama for 2.5 years. And she started a career as an entertainer when she and two of her friends formed a vaudeville trio called Black, Red, and Gold, in which they all had their hair dyed to match that theme. So one was redheaded, one had black hair, and one had blonde hair. And basically her vaudeville trio gets pretty popular, and then she gets her own program. So it's the Adelaide Hawley program, which she hosted from 1937 to 1950, first on NBC Radio and then on CBS Radio. In 1949, she became Betty Crocker, and she appeared for several years on the George Burns and Gracie Allen show, and even had her own TV show, the Betty Crocker Star Matinee. They ended up dropping her in 1964 when they decided to move on to a new Betty Crocker. And afterwards, she resumed her educational career, and she went to NYU and got a doctoral degree in speech education in 1967. And she taught English as a second language in Washington State, and she maintained that role until December 18th, 1998, giving her final class 3 days before her death. And then she died at the age of 93.
Wow.
I think that her story is obviously really fascinating, right? Being a educated woman at this time in history is very cool. I also think contrasting it to the story of Nancy Green is absolutely harrowing.
Yeah, it's really tricky. I mean, there's something to the fact that, like, I mean, I guess I'd be so curious to know how much they were both paid, because even looking at Adelaide having to go back and like continue like teaching, I mean, maybe she just wanted to, but I'd be so curious to know how much these women were both paid, because, like, you know what I mean? It's like at this point, if the Flo from Progressive wanted to stop being Flo from Progressive, or they like had her stop, she probably doesn't need to work again.
Oh, we're gonna get into that.
But like, yeah, so it's really fascinating to like think about like how much these women were actually being paid. I'm sure Nancy Green was being paid next to nothing, and I'm sure that like Adelaide was probably being paid like less than male counterparts, but still like an amount of money. But I would be curious to know like the comparison to then like these female mascot / spokespeople of today.
Right. Well, and also too how much these spokeswomen today are making in comparison to, I don't know, equivalent actors, although yeah,
because it's like how much is like the woman who plays Flo from Progressive making versus like Dean Winters for the Mayhem ads,
right? Or even like Doug and Emu. What is the fucking
Doug and Emu.
When we talk about insurance, I've decided I'm gonna make it very clear I will be rating Doug with attractiveness. I will not be rating the Emu with attractiveness, but I will be rating the Geico Gecko with attractiveness.
Well, because that's different.
It's so different.
It's so different.
So we're going to transition now into talking about modern spokeswomen. Talking about our girl Flo from Progressive. Flo is a fictional salesperson who has appeared in more than 1,000 advertisements for Progressive Insurance since 2008.
Wow, she's booked and busy.
She's portrayed by actress and comedian Stephanie Courtney, and the character of Flo has developed a fan base on social networks and has become an iconic advertising mascot. Stephanie Courtney was a member of the Groundlings, which is an improvisational and sketch comedy theater in Los Angeles, California. We already talked about the cult of improv with the SNL stuff, but yeah, Groundlings in that same family, baby.
Oh yeah, also very culty.
Yeah. Because you have to like audition to get into the basic classes, and then you just like it's a little bit of an MLM. That being said, incredibly
all of these sketch comedy and improv like groups very much function like MLMs, because like you have to audition to get into classes, and then when you're in the classes you have to like audition to get onto like a weekend team, and then you have to audition to get into a main team. Like it's very much like you're gonna work your way up, baby.
People do it though.
You're gonna get rid of your Thetans. Now it's Scientology. Oh. It's not like an MLM, it's actually the most like Scientology. Because Scientology, not to be crazy, but like Scientology, you have to pay to like get sets of books to ascend to the next level. And that's literally, but then like also when you get to a certain point in Scientology, you can become like an auditor where you're then like working with other people, which is also like when you become a teacher at like Groundlings or UCB. So I am doing a direct one-to-one comparison between UCB, Groundlings, Second City with the Church of Scientology, just to say.
And I agree.
Thank God, because if you said, Mackenna, you're wrong, I think I would have shit myself and started crying at the same time.
I mean, I think that you've really cracked the code here. It's also no surprise that there's a lot of Scientologists in Hollywood.
Yeah, there are. Tom Cruise, I don't like you, and I never will.
Yeah, you're in a cult. Get out, Tom. Get out.
Tom Cruise, no, I don't even want him to get out. He knows what happened to Shelly Miscavige and hasn't said anything about it for years and years and years. And I actually don't care. I like with him. I'm like, you're gone. I don't care anymore.
You know who I want to get out is Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah, I want Elizabeth Moss and Chloe Fineman to get out.
I want Elizabeth Moss to get out so bad because it's like, girl, you have been in like multiple pieces of media now that are essentially about people getting out of cults.
Correct.
You gotta be able to see that you're in the movie.
But that's the thing is like it's you with Scientology specifically, you sink so much money into it. Like that's actually part of it is they do like sunk cost fallacy.
Well, she was born and raised in it too, which I think makes it harder.
Right. Yeah. So it's just like it's really tough.
Was Chloe Finneman, was she born and raised in it or did she get into it?
I don't know. I know she has the chandelier. Because that happened when her Architectural Digest thing came out. Everyone was freaking the fuck out.
That's crazy. That's why I don't engage with any of her stuff, to be honest.
So on the Reddit thread I found, it seems like both of her parents are pretty high up in Scientology. They're both considered clears, which is like what you are afforded as a status when you're considered to be like free of trauma. And so you no longer have a reactive mind. So she was born into it, all to say, it seems like, from this very cursory research.
Yeah, she don't do it for me. Sorry to say.
You're a bad person. I'm just kidding. I don't actually care about. I think she's funny.
I think I like when she does the Drew Barrymore voice.
Yeah, I think she's like probably like maybe one of the best impressionists that SNL has right now.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So the character of Flo debuted in 2008 through several TV advertisements and has since appeared in radio, print, and web banners. She is a cashier and is recognizable by her extremely upbeat personality, brilliant white uniform, her makeup, and her retro hairstyle. According to Stephanie Courtney, it takes 1 hour to prepare Flo's hair and another to apply her makeup, which I didn't think that Flo's makeup was like that intense, but when I was doing my little research about Flo, a lot of people mention how heavy her makeup is. And I don't know, do you think her makeup is that heavy?
I mean, it's just very specific, which I feel like might be the thing that takes so much time. But like she doesn't, like Stephanie Courtney and Flo don't look that different. But like it is, the eye makeup is pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But like, I'd imagine it's just because they are probably extremely careful to always, like what probably takes so long about it is just making sure that she always looks the exact same as she has looked in every other ad, which is going to take time of just like matching and being that specific.
Yeah, that's true. Stephanie Courtney has referred to her character of Flo as like one of her improv characters, always sort of cracked up in a weird way. I have learned through this process that I think I love Stephanie Courtney. She's absolutely hilarious in any time she talks about Flo, and she is so self-aware about who she is, what she's doing, and that she got her bag. I have an amazing quote from her where she said that the Geico Gecko puts out more sexual vibes than Flo does. So,
oh, absolutely.
One of us. One of us. I think what I like about her is that she's also just like, she like has kept doing some like small amount of other acting stuff in addition to like being, because she could just be like, she just clearly likes actually doing comedy. Yeah.
And like makes her money doing Flo. But like she was on like 30 episodes of the Goldbergs. She was on Mad Men for a few episodes. Like she's like continued to act in other things in addition to being Flo because she just like she loves comedy, and like that's just like a really, I think, lovely thing is just to be someone who like genuinely likes the art that you're making.
I love her so much. Stephanie Courtney, come on this podcast.
I would love to yap with her, and I'll tell her I won't apologize for saying the groundlings and Scientology are kind of the same thing. I won't apologize.
No, I fucking love her vibe. I think if you told her that, she would laugh.
Do you know that she was also in Fred the movie?
I did see that.
Yes.
One of my favorite progressive ads featuring Flo is the 100th advertisement that features Flo, and it introduces the members of her family, including her mother, father, brother, sister, and grandfather. All of these characters are played by Stephanie Courtney, a la Eddie Murphy. And
I literally was going to say the Nutty Professor.
Literally doing a Nutty Professor 2 type of beat. And yeah, apparently it took 12 hours of hair and makeup transitions for that recording.
Oh my god.
There is an amazing New York Times profile of her, and Mackenna, I'm going to send you some big chunks of text. It was so hard for me not to just send the entire thing. I love this article. And what I'm going to do, I think, okay, I'm going to send you big chunks of text, and I'm going to read it out loud, but whenever there's a quote, I'll have you read the Flo quote.
Okay.
Within a couple of months of shooting the first ads, Courtney was asked to film more. The work eventually became so steady that she quit her day jobs.
I just remember getting the check for the year, which never ever in my life.
She trailed on. The relief in her voice sounded as fresh as if this had only just happened.
I owed my manager money,
she said.
I owed family members money.
Her efforts to write sketches at home were constantly being interrupted by debt collectors.
And then I got that money and I was just like, here.
She mimed handing it out.
Just here. Just get out of my life.
After 3 years into the ads, Courtney's finances were evolving so rapidly that her manager advised her to get a business manager.
Which I did.
She said.
And it is the advice I give any other person who is like, I have a campaign. What do I do?
It is the advice she gave to Kevin Miles when he first came to her home to chat over lunch about becoming Jake from State Farm. She also knows Doug, the guy from the Liberty Mutual emu commercials. In the absent glow of the patio's still dormant fire pit, Courtney and I considered the dinner menu, which included a small quantity of caviar costing a sum of American dollars ominously, discreetly, vaguely, alarmingly, irresistibly, and euphemistically specified as market price. Hours earlier, my supervisor had told me preemptively and demonically that I was not to order and expense the market price caviar. Somehow, Courtney learned of this act of oppression, probably when I brought it up to her immediately upon being seated for dinner. To this, Courtney said,
I love caviar.
And added that my boss
can't tell me what I can have.
Because she doesn't.
Answer to him, goddammit!
She charged the caviar to her own personal credit card and encouraged me to eat it with her, even as I explained, weakly for 1 second, that this is not allowed. Lock me up.
I love that.
Yeah, so Flo got her fucking bag. All I want to do is eat caviar with Stephanie Courtney. I love her so much. I tried to look into how much money she makes. Some people said she makes like $1 million a year being Flo. That is not really substantiated anywhere. That's just like people speculating. But yeah, there is thankfully no goddamn controversy around Flo. Most people just like the commercials. There are some people who think that they're annoying, but even then, it's just like they're just moderately annoyed.
They hate to see a woman winning.
Yeah. So there is one glimmer of hope in this episode, and it is Flo from Progressive.
Thank God we finally got to talk about something that didn't make us all feel like we're dying.
Well, now to transition into something else.
Oh.
So we're going to talk about Lily from AT&T, who is portrayed by actress Miljana Vantrub.
Oh, wait. Before we get to that, can I tell you my favorite fact about the Progressive insurance ads?
Yes.
As I'm sure a lot of people know, there's now like an expanded group of like rotating cast in the Progressive ads. There's like lots of people in it.
I get mad because I just want Flo.
Which is so fair, but I like some of them. For example, I really like Mara, who's the sort of like sardonic deadpan one.
Mm-hmm.
And so she is a playwright and there's like I think one woman shows too. And she is gonna be, so A24 bought this historic theater in New York called the Cherry Lane Theater, and they're finally reopening it in September, and they're opening it with Natalie Palamedes, I don't know how to say her last name, but Natalie Palamedes' show. And so one of the other girls from the Progressive commercials is gonna get like this, like her show is gonna reopen a theater.
I fucking love it, dog.
So it's just so fun because like I'm sure that like all of the Progressive insurance people are making like a fair amount of money from doing that now. But like they're also still doing these like other things and like still pursuing arts, and that's so exciting.
I mean, that's always like, I think the ideal for a working artist, right? Is like have enough money so that you can do the art you want to do.
Yes. Oh, so the show is going to be, it's a 5-week run of her show We're, a one-woman show where she plays both halves of a romantic couple.
Fun.
Yeah.
So Lily from the AT&T ads is portrayed by actress Miljana Vantrub. She began her career as a child actress, and she came to prominence for her appearances in the AT&T TV commercials as saleswoman Lily Adams from 2013 to 2016, and then since 2020. So she was in these commercials for a 3-year span, had a break for 4 years, and has been in the commercials since. She eventually became the target of sexual harassment online about her body. Basically, Miljana Vantrub has a very attractive body to most people, and people kind of realize this. Like, you know,
She specifically has big old boobs.
she's got huge boobies.
She's got big old boobs. And like I don't mean that to objectify her, but that is what almost all of the comments are about, are her big old boobs.
Yeah. And so essentially my understanding is that somebody like photos of her from her Instagram where she's like wearing a swimsuit and stuff, like from kind of years before she was doing the AT&T ads, basically resurfaced, and people were like, oh shit, the girl from the AT&T commercials is fucking smoking hot. And there's a whole subreddit that's dedicated to her that people just jerk off to. It has 161,000 members. A lot of the popular posts on it are obviously pictures of her where you can see her glorious boobies. And one thing that I really hate is that there will be pictures of her like at like conventions and stuff, and she's just like wearing a tank top and smiling and just looks normal, and like the top comment will be something to the effect of like, she knows, they always know, where it's like, she knows she's teasing us with her gorgeous body, and it's like, no, that's just like a woman like wearing a tank top at an event.
She is just a person with a body. Like she just, that is how she was born. That is her body, and that's what she looks like.
Her body was photoshopped onto graphic pornographic images. Dirty messages were sent to the AT&T website. She was basically constantly sexually harassed online. I'm going to send you an image that has some of the comments that were on her Instagram. Do you want to be the bad men or AT&T responding?
Oh, which one do we, okay, I'm trying to think about I'm casting directoring. I feel like you should be the awful men on the internet and I can be a corporate AT&T voice.
Okay, and they've obviously censored out in this image when people said tits. God. Do you want me to say tits or do you just want me to screech?
I feel like you should bleep.
Okay.
Also, this is such she's in such a conservative dress in this picture.
Yeah, so in this image, which was posted on the AT&T Instagram, she's just at some kind of event. She's wearing a like dress, like a normal A-line dress that reveals really nothing about the contours of her body. And so obviously there were hundreds of comments like this, but here are some of the top ones. I'm going to read the comment and then I'll read how many likes it has. From media_microwave. Man, I want to suck on those big juicy beep! 1,378 likes.
At Media Microwave, we don't condone sexual harassment of employees in the workplace or on our social media channels.
The other comment from the other person was, lovely beep! I want more!
Your overshares aren't welcome here.
And the comment has 918 likes, and AT&T's response has 126.
It's just absurd. It's just absurd, and it's stupid, and like, I we talk about this a lot, like with internet comments, and like obviously a lot of my day job is I read comments on YouTube videos, and people are just unhinged with the comments they will make about people's bodies, and especially when it becomes like a circle jerk, like it obviously has about Weintraub. Like it just like it's part of it is them actually being horny, but part of it is like the meme, but it's like there's a person behind it. And it's fucked up.
There's like a really fucked up video of her on a live where she's basically getting emotional.
Oh, she's crying.
Yeah, and she's saying like, I'm hurting, and it's bringing up a lot of feelings of sexual assault, and all of the comments are about mommy milkers.
Yeah, because they don't view her as a real they don't view her as a real person.
Yeah. Vantrub has spoken publicly about the toll that this amount of sexual harassment has taken on her, and AT&T has tried to do some things to mitigate this. So they've like limited certain camera angles of her. They've like, I mean, she was always covered up in the AT&T commercials.
Yeah.
She's really covered up now. Like she wears like long sleeve tops.
Yeah.
There was on AT&T's Instagram, they made a statement saying that they would not tolerate inappropriate comments and harassment about her. And there's kind of a cool little New York Times article I read about this where she got a call from Stephanie Courtney, who's Flo from Progressive. And basically, like, Stephanie Courtney was like, I'm so sorry this has happened to you. I haven't had this kind of stuff happen to me, but it's, like, really fucked up. And basically, Vantrub is like, oh, she was a great listener. She made me feel like there were people on my side. It made me feel really good. So we are a Stephanie Courtney fan podcast. She seems like she is a girl who supports girls, as they say.
Yeah.
And I also do want to highlight that Miljana Vantrub has amazing politics. She's spoken out really openly about, like, support for refugees. In the aftermath of a lot of this sexual harassment stuff, she did a project where she did a conversation with Ted Bunch, who's the co-founder of A Call to Men, which is an organization that has this objective of trying to create a world where men are loving and respectful to women and girls, and creating an environment where women and girls feel valued and safe. So basically, it's an organization that tries to, like, help men be less misogynistic. And they had this conversation about, like, healthy masculinity and gender equity and racial justice. So I just think it's wonderful that, like, Miljana Vantrub has, like, used this experience to also try to, like, catapult some good into the world, and, like, really has tried to use it as, like, a talking point for the betterment of society. Whether that has any effect on the fucking mommy milker comments or all the guys who jerk off to her on Reddit, I don't really know.
She's also getting hers because she's going to be in Project Hail Mary with Ryan Gosling next year, and I love that book. I'm so excited for this movie. I think it's going to be so great, and she's playing, like, I think ostensibly the second biggest female character in the movie, and I'm really happy that, like, she has persisted in the face of all of this, because I think there's it would have been a very reasonable response to be like, I'm fucking off from, like, public eye, but then that kind of would have given these guys what they wanted in some way, which is to like bully someone. And because, like, whether they want to admit it or not, what they're doing is a form of bullying. Like, sexually objectifying women in this way is bullying. Even if you think you're being positive, you're not. Like, this is actually gross. I say this as someone who, like, has had men bully me about my butt before and have been, like, really gross to me about my body, starting when I was a teenager. And I think that, like, it is a form of bullying. And so it's really, really lovely to see her, like, still, like, be making her way in an industry that is so appearance-based. And I'm excited that she gets to, like, be in this, like, you know, this prestige film. It's a Lord and Miller movie. It's based on this, like, really famous book. It's starring Ryan Gosling. Like, it's a big deal, and it's really exciting.
One thing that this reminded me of was other attractive women in advertising. Do you remember the Esurance ads with Erin from when you were a kid? She was a hot cartoon lady with pink hair.
Yeah, the cartoon girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, they dropped her from those advertisements because the internet would not stop making porn of her.
Oh, that's so hard. She has, unfortunately, like, she's got that, like, Shigo build.
Yeah.
And is, like, a hot girl with pink hair. And so I think she got, like, you know, I'm sure there's some... We will eventually be talking about, like, hot goth women and e-girls and manic pixie dream girls. And I think, unfortunately, she tapped into that thing and thus was porned, because that's a specific brand of woman that... even cartoon that men cannot view as a real full human being and can only view as a sexual object.
And, like, I guess it just reminds me of Miljana Vantrub because, like, people are always like, oh, Rule 34, like, if it exists, there's porn of it. And, like, I think that porn of the hot cartoon girl from the Esurance ads is kind of funny, and I don't know that I think that that's inherently something that's harmful that exists, but no. When it's a real life woman being sexually harassed, like, on her employer's social media, right. That's, like, horrible, objectively.
I mean, well, the argument I would make is, unfortunately, these men view Aaron Esurance and real life human being Miljana Vantrub as the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, they actually view them both as exactly the same amount of real person. And that's the thing that fucking sucks, is that, like, they both are just as real and not real to these people because they don't view women they see through their TV screen as and slash, you know, computer screen, phone screen as real life human beings. It's something that's, you know, led men feeling empowered to leave the horrible comments they do on videos of you. Like, they just do not view the comments that I read about our hosts in general, but specifically our femme hosts on SciShow. It's like, they do not view the person who they're speaking to as a real human being, because they would never say those types of comments to like a real human woman in their life, but they feel so empowered to say it on the internet because they view women as just as real as Aaron Esurance.
Well, right. And when women are objectified in that way, it's like, if women only exist for my sexual gratification, how dare a woman who I don't want to jerk off to, like, how dare the existence of that woman even be?
Yeah, and it's fucked up. And I think it's like also like the whole thing that's like really tricky is, so when it's Aaron Esurance, if wasn't Esurance like an Allstate thing, maybe?
I think so.
Like, if Esurance / Allstate doesn't want a bunch of porn being associated with their brand, they could just phase out Aaron Esurance. The major consequence is going to be that voice actor is going to lose work, which obviously sucks, and like there is still a real person behind it. But like, that voice actors can go get other work and not be, you know, constantly sexually harassed for the rest of her life. But like, you know, if all of this bullshit cause AT&T to be like, hey, you're fired, fuck you, we can't have our brand being associated with it, that like affects her life and her family and all of this stuff in a very much more tangible way because her face is associated with it.
Well, right. And I think one thing that we've talked about is it is hard for everyone. It's hard for every woman, I think, especially like, because if you are someone who's not considered conventionally attractive, there's a lot of challenges with the dehumanization that comes with that. But
yeah,
if you are a conventionally attractive woman, that actually doesn't like humanize you. And in fact, there's like it's still an amount of dehumanization that also makes your life incredibly hard. It's just a different kind of hard. It's like for me, like, you know, we've never had a negative comment on a TikTok of you. And we've had many about me. And for me, it's always like, oh, look at why is the Pudge talking about the whale? And just like shit like that. And like, but I don't get catcalled when I'm walking around outside, you know? Like, it's just like, there's like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's like, there's nobody who like wins.
No. And I think the thing that's tricky too is like, it does all ultimately come down to like what are things that can be picked apart about your body, because for you, it's obviously your size. Like, that's the thing that they're often pointing to. And occasionally your eyebrows, which are great. And anyone who comments on Aubrey's eyebrows should be punted into the sun, because that's insane. Yeah. Unless it's a positive comment, then you're right. But like, you know, for you know, Miliana and like friends in my life who have like, I have big boobs, but I don't have gigantic boobs. And it's like, especially when you're a thin woman with gigantic boobs, like I have several very close friends who either are currently in that situation or have had breast reductions. And it's like, it's just like your body exists to be sexualized. And like, the thing that gets me catcalled when I'm out on the streets is the big juicy ass that I did not ask for and was just gifted upon me. And which is a gift most of the time, but it is like sometimes a curse, because like I don't really go outside with like leggings on if I don't have a shirt on that covers them, because it's a nightmare. And now I live in this fun world too, where like my hair is a thing that people comment on all the time, usually in a nice way, but it does bring me attention. And so, but what is true is my hair being colorful has then sort of distracted from my big glorious butt. And I think that like when you are born with a body that is either a facet that is largely sexualized classically or is viewed as not attractive classically, if you have anything outside of just like a standard, whatever a standard median body is, it's like that's the thing they're going to comment on. And I think is what leads that dehumanization, because they're literally breaking you down to like this body part that they are responding to positively or negatively.
Well, and nobody has that median body, right?
No,
doesn't exist. Like that's thing. There's no such thing as an average body.
No, it's just because it doesn't exist. It's not real. But it's just like the more that you stray away from whatever this middle is, the more that it like gives them leverage to pick something about you apart.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's why they're getting so specific with it now, because for people who like don't have those things, that's why we're getting into like the cancel tilt and bullshit like that. And because they need to find something about everyone they can pick apart.
Well, right, because I mean, that's the thing. Before Republicans decided that they loved Sydney Sweeney, I constantly saw conservatives having the hot take that Sydney Sweeney's mid, actually.
Yeah.
It's like, who fucking cares, dog? And that's the thing. It's like, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. Because if you have the features that people, well, first of all, there's nobody who's safe from it because nobody has all the features that are considered correct by everyone. And God forbid, if you try to change your features to align more with those standards, I mean, half the time, like, I also see men like posting images of like women with like all the buccal fat removal, and they're like, oh, look at how gross they look now. And it's like, dog, fucking every woman who you've ever jerked off to has had plastic surgery, like, to be honest. Like you just have only noticed it in 0.001% of cases.
Well, and the whole reason the buccal fat removal is happening, preview for the plastic surgery series we're gonna do, is because women are so afraid now of having round faces, because round faces are associated with fatness. And so when you get the buccal fat removal, it gives you your defined cheekbones, it makes you look skinnier. But then it also, for people who are supposed to naturally have round faces, it makes your face look like it's not supposed to look like that. And so it's just, it's again, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. I also think, sorry, this is to go back to like the contrast between like Stephanie Courtney and Miliana. It's like, Stephanie Courtney was in her late 30s when she was first cast as Flo. That's how old Miliana Van Traub is now. So she was in her mid-20s when those commercials started. And it just also, it's the whole youth thing that it's like she's a young, hot woman. And so they're going to be more sexually aggressive towards her than they are going to be to a woman in her late 30s. Pornhub.com has an 18 to 25-year-old category that it's one of the most popular categories on the platform. And we see all the time that, like, you know, they, like in porn, like being 18, barely legal is very popular. But like now they're really reinforcing the idea that past 25, you should just kill yourself.
Unless you're a MILF.
Unless you're a MILF. And so it's like, I think the thing that they did really well with Flo is they didn't like portray her as like MILFy. Like it just, I think like the heavy makeup on Flo, the very particular aesthetic, and hiring someone who was like a sketch comedy, like a frankly like a Kristen Wiig Target lady type, like was really useful and just like squashing some of that sexual objectification in a way that they, you know, they just sort of like Lily from AT&T is so normal that it actually opened up the ability for sexual harassment because she was a young, hot woman who was just portrayed as very normal.
Well, she doesn't really have a character, and because of that, people project whatever they want onto her. Whereas Flo from Progressive, her whole thing is like, I'm quirky and goofy, and I have a loud voice, and like I'm sure there's people who are jerking it to Flo from Progressive, but not like this.
Not like this.
Well,
hashtag they not like us.
That's the end.
That's where you want to end?
Yeah.
Is on me saying hashtag they not like us?
We should probably have a better ending.
I mean, we don't have to, but you know, I'll just, instead of the regular outro, I'll just get us sued by playing Kendrick's Not Like Us. Oh my God.
I went to a conference, and it was a conference of dietitians, and I was asked to give a talk about eating disorder stuff, and it was just all white women in the room, and they immediately started by playing Not Like Us, and the one black woman who was in the corner, like 15 people turned and looked at her to like kind of gauge what the reaction was. I took Josh with me, and he said that it was maybe the most cringe thing he's ever experienced in real life.
See, that story to me in so many ways represents everything we've talked about in this episode. Where it's just like, it's just, you know, it never stops. It never stops. And listen, I'm a white person who likes rap music. But it is always just the white people being like, yeah, we love the culture. It's fine.
I had a young white person tell me recently that she listened to Hamilton for the first time, and then she was like, I've never listened to rap music before. Now I'm starting to listen to rap. And so her intro to rap music was Hamilton.
Oh, to actually end, I should mention that we are taking the next week off because I will be traveling for work and then attending a music festival and just simply will not have time to edit an episode. So no new episode next week, and then we'll be back on October 5th with a new series about hot goth girlfriends, where we'll be talking about characters like Shigo and the Hex Girls, but also my trauma with dating. And then after that, we'll be doing another spooky season, Halloween-y themed couple of episodes, and then we'll be completing our Hot Mascot series after that. So a little bit of a break from Hot Mascots, but they'll be back with a vengeance, including the Geico Gecko, which I know folks have been steezed on hearing about. But I think you're going to like the Goth Girlfriends series and the one that we have coming up after that. So in the meantime, check out our social media content, catch up on old episodes, send us some emails, and we'll see you in October. Yeah, bye. Have a question or a topic that you would like for us to discuss? Send us an email at informedattraction@gmail.com.